Okay, so today I'm going to be working on a Murray lawnmower. It's a very old thing. I'm in my dad's garage because it is raining outside. Otherwise I usually have this little outside area that I work in. But yeah, so I've already let these soak in gas overnight. I have this little paint can, probably about the size of this little planter right here. And it holds like at least 2 carburetors, so I soaked 2 carburetors at the same time. This one is for one of my old mowers. It's for an old Murray. It's got like bicycle wheels for the rear wheels. I just got it. The only way I can start it is by using a drill, a 15th, 16th socket right here. So I have to clamp this to my drill, and then I can start it by using the drill. But that's the only way to start it because the recoil's all messed up and I'm not buying a new one. I already installed a fuel filter on it because I'm going to have to rig, because the carry tube that carries the fuel into your intake valve channel, that tube is cracked. So I'm going to have to literally make it so that the tube doesn't go into the carburetor tube just meets on the plate. They both meet on the plate. If that makes any sense, you'll see it. I'll show you how to install one of these once we have some nice weather. But I've already cleaned the whole carburetor. I got the fuel line here. I did this in a way where when I put it back on the mower, I actually don't even know which way this flows, because this may be the wrong way. And there's no arrows on it. I'm assuming it doesn't matter. But yeah, it's basically just a screen filter, and it's red. And it is a red mower, so perfect. So yeah, that will just go. I'm not even going to be doing anything with this in this video, but once it's back on the mower, and then that goes to your gas tank. But I like having it hidden behind the intake plate, so you don't even know the filter's there. It kind of looks ugly if you do have it hanging out, so I try to hide that shit. Here's the main jet. About as clean as it's gonna get. And then the float bowl, which cleaned up really nicely. And I just soaked it in normal gas, not even premium fuel or diesel, just regular gas. 87 octane. And this actually cleaned up really nice, and this was the worst part. And then the float bowl also had a lot of buildup on it. That's literally brand new now. And then I even had the whole fuel line before I cut it. I had the whole fuel line in there as well, because this was also very dirty. You couldn't even blow through it. Now you can. Still tastes like gas though. Then the needle is in good shape. Sometimes these can develop leaks. They'll start to corrode and lose metal on them, and they will not even seal anymore. And then here is your little axle thing that kind of holds the float in. So basically how you do this, God, I look like a freaking jackass with this. So, these are awesome. You got 3/8 inch on this side and 1/4 inch on this side. It's very handy. That was only a $9 tool. It lasted me 10 years. One of the first tools I ever bought with one of my own money. So how this works is you got your needle here. You'll notice there's like this little lip on there, and you just slide this into there, and then drop it into place. That hole right there above my finger, that's the seat. So you need to make sure the seat is clean. That's when someone says make sure your needle and seat is good. When someone says the needle and seat is stuck, because that can happen. Now, you take your pin, and there's going to be this little hole on the side. You just push it in, make sure your float is lined up. Kind of sometimes takes a little bit of fiddling to get it to work. Yep, there we go. Make sure your float tube is right there. And then before you put your float bowl on, you want to make sure that this drops, because think about it, your float bowl is right here. When that's dropped down, that needle is going to come out of its seat, and it's going to allow gas by. When this gets full, this is going to come up and close the seat, which means gas cannot get by. If this does not work properly, gas will just start flooding out of your intake, or yeah, out of here. Or if it gets stuck like this, it just won't fill up at all, and they will get stuck like this sometimes. So take your float bowl. Some of them do take different float bowls. Some of them have more shallow ones like this, but some of them can have super deep ones. I've had some deep ones. This is like an older Quantum engine with this float bowl design, but like I have a Brute lawnmower that I got from my boss that has you do not need this too tight. That's good. I've accidentally tightened these too much and had my float literally cave in, like to the point where it literally is like squishing into the, and then once it's like this, do that, and that's the sound of your float doodling around in there, which means it's working properly. Right now, it's touching the bottom of the bowl because it's empty. Once gas starts going in here, the float is going to raise, and then gas can't flow because the needle's going to plug it. So that's basically how these carburetors work. Now, if you take something like a Briggs Stratton Classic engine, those run on a diaphragm. I can honestly not tell you much about the diaphragm engines. I really don't even know how the diaphragm carbs. I know how to service them, but they're very hard to explain. And then once I always put it together, I usually just take an air compressor and blow the outside of it off. Like that. And there, you basically got a brand new carburetor. And this saves you a lot of money. Now, there is quite a few generic parts sellers on eBay that sell a lot of just lawnmowers, pressure washers, snow blower, leaf blower, weed whacker parts. And no, they're not going to be name brand, but I have bought parts from them before. I've been more than impressed. So, you know, if you can't afford, because one of these genuine carburetors brand new, if yours, you've cleaned it and, you know, it's just still not working, because they can get to that point where you can clean them very thoroughly and they just won't work properly anymore. Also, make sure that this is nice and loose. That is your governor. There is a little flyweight in the engine that makes this move around. And that's kind of what allows air through. So that's wide open throttle, which means it's going to let a lot of air through, and you're going to freaking rev the thing up. And that right there is idle, which you're never really going to see that unless you shove your fingers up underneath the hood and make it like that. But yeah, so, and then right there where that hole is where it pops into there. So, yeah. So that's how that works. I normally recommend, if you're cleaning one of these carburetors, as you take it apart, because what I did is I just didn't even take it apart, and I just set it in my container full of gas, and it came out very clean. So you don't even have to take it apart first. You're gonna have to take it apart in the end, because the gas is gonna loosen stuff up and it's gonna leave stuff in there. But yeah, so you can see how much dirty stuff fell out of it as I opened it up, which I did not get to film that. I didn't think to film it, sadly. But yeah, and then your hose, I'm just going to here, you can see you got that clamp. I didn't even have to undo my clamp because it's so old and loose that I was just able to pull it off. Usually they're a little bit more new and tight. This is still tight enough to the point where I can take it off and may be able to take it on and off without taking it off, that clamp over here. But it's still tight enough to the point where no gas, I haven't seen any gas leak out of here. Who knows, I might end up having to get 2 more clamps for around the filter here, we'll see. Sometimes you'll need that. And this already looks a little too long, but the reason I do it more towards this way, you know, I've got all this line. It's definitely still long enough. So, you know, if I end up having to trim some off, that's okay. Always try to, don't take too much off. If you're not sure, take less off and work your way down. So yeah, and that's basically what it's gonna look like, and then you'll obviously see where the tank is once you have it on, get this on the mower. But yeah, you can also, a lot of people are fooled by, oh, well, my engine's a Briggs Stratton, must get that Briggs Stratton fuel line. You can get any fuel line at your local hardware store. You can get like 6 feet of it, and that is the way better deal. I got 6 feet for $6, and I could have gotten this much for $10 just because it has the Briggs Stratton logo on it. Waste of money. Don't fall for it. So, yeah. Now, obviously, I won't even use my 6-foot roll of it if what was on the mower is still functional. You know, a lot of the times I'll replace it if it's getting brittle. Like when I service people's mowers, sometimes it'll be very brittle. Right now, this is one of my own personal mower carbs. But sometimes these will get brittle, and, you know, it can crack easily, and you don't want that failing on somebody. So if you plan on selling a mower onto somebody, don't worry about spending fucking that much, $10 on just this much. You can get 6 feet of it, about 6 times this for $6. Maybe it could vary, but I don't know. For me anyways, and I'm sure it goes for most people, that's how it's going to be. But yeah, use a paper towel, so when you're taking it apart, if your needle falls, it doesn't fall onto the floor. This is soft. You do not want to scratch your needle. It's not good for it. It's basically like dropping a old antique coin on the ground. So